Hey, yeah. All right. I'm on holidays and I'm very reluctant to do this tutorial because I am on holidays, but I promised that I would do something. Now, the Transformers tutorial is coming eventually, but in this case, it's taking a long time to put together, as you would have read in the blog. So I'm just going to get started on something else instead, which is just a quickie that I thought I might show you guys. If you saw the movie The Assassination of Jesse James, this is an awesome little video. Sorry, movie that's really cool. And I'm just going to create this effect. So if you kind of look here, this is the kind of look I'm going for. So like the edges are all washed out and they're kind of blurred with the chromatic aberration, that kind of thing. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. If you've seen the movie, it's a pretty awesome kind of effect. And it took me a little bit of time to figure it out, but it's really cool. Um, just a bit of trivia. This is also one of Glenn Stewart's favorite films. So if you kind of watch it, you'll probably enjoy it. Maybe if you're in that kind of mood. I don't know. Anyway, so here we go. We're gonna start off with the footage. So here's the original footage, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty decent footage. This is from a movie that we did back in the day by Annette Sicari, one of my really good friends, and she made this film called Bruno, which happened to win the Pomodoro, the I Heart Little Italy Film Festival of 2008, and she came first place, and she got the People's Choice Awards as well. So let's just start. We're going to just put a adjustment layer on here, and I'm just going to do some basic color correction. So here we go. We're going to go for curves first, and we'll just drag that on here. Now, what I like to do when I try to adjust for color correction, I try to do it in a couple of steps. So the first thing I like to do is sort of flatten the image out. Now, if you want to have a look at your histogram, you can just pull levels on here, which is really great for that kind of thing. You can see the histogram right there. So you can kind of look, everything's kind of bunched up at the end. So it's not that the blacks are really crushed, but there's a lot of area, there's a lot of details in the black and not much area in the white. You can see that things are just sort of spread out here. Now make sure that you're set to 16-bit color. You can just change it by going in here and selecting 16-bit color. You want to do that so that, and we'll check these two as well, this helps you to keep the project consistent with what you're actually seeing, so it doesn't render out darker than what you might have. Now, so here we go. We're going to have a look at here, and you can see here that all the blacks are at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is we'll just keep the middle the same, but we're going to push the blacks up just slightly, just so we have a more even distribution of those blacks. Now, not too much, but just a little bit, just so we just distribute those blacks a little bit more evenly, and that's pretty good. Now, let's go to the next phase. We're not going to play the levels. They're just so that you can see what the waveform is looking like. Now, let's go to the hue saturation, and let's just have a look at the reds. Now, it's pretty good. Now, what we're going to try and do here is see the skin tones. We're going to try and isolate those skin tones. But the problem here in this situation is that the skin tones are very similar to these walls, and to a large degree to the computer, it's very similar to this table and even to some of this chair. So we're not going to be able to isolate it as well as we would like to without doing some masking and that kind of thing, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is just pull this out a bit more, and these two are basically like the boundaries for your color. So everything in here is going to be selected, and this is your fall off. So if you can imagine from here to here, the drop off is just going to be a little bit more gradual, but if you put these closer, the drop off will be a lot steeper. So we're just going to do it about here, which is quite good. And then we've just isolated the red channel. So I'm just going to pull the saturation up just a little bit. You can see everything's becoming a lot more orange. So we're just going to leave that for a second. And now what we're going to do is pull another hue saturation on here as well. Now let's pull the saturation down now. So what's going to happen is that we can keep a lot of the red channels up, but by keeping the other channels down. So the blue basically gets desaturated and everything else is going to stay up a bit. But it's a very orange kind of shot, so the effect isn't going to be as nice, but it's okay. We're just going to keep it like that for the moment. Now, you can do things like hue shifting, like if you want to change the color of that door, for example, it's kind of cool. This is a really cool trick. So let's hue shift the color of that door. So we want it to be more, that kind of teal color. So we go to -21 on the second saturation, and then we'll twist it back to +21. And so that brings everything back, but the door has actually changed color. So if you kind of have a look at what color the door was before, it was more like that greeny blue color. Now it's more of a blue color. You can do that, but in this case, we don't really need to because the door is a fine color. There's nothing wrong with that color. But in this case, there's just a little bit of a thing that you can do. Now, that's all very well and good. Let's go to gamma correction. Now, gamma is really fun. This is where you can start playing around with the colors a lot more. You can see the red. These are the ones I usually look at: is the red, the green, and the blue. Now, if you look at these three, you can actually temp how you want your film to look. So if you want it to be that cool blue color, well, you're gonna have to pull out some of the red and pull out some of the green. So let's pull out the red first. Now we'll pull down the red and let's pull down the green. And you can see it's going a lot cooler. And you can see now there's a comparison from the original print. It's a lot less orange and actually it's become a lot cooler. And you can see it's got the cool skin tones. We've just basically pulled out a lot of the warmth and I've made it even a little bit more stark, which is kind of the look of the actual movie. If you look at that scene from The Assassination of Jesse James by the cowardly Robert Ford, which is an awesome movie. All right, now I'm just going to do a final correction on the curves. And what I'm going to do now is just pull this up just a tad because it's just a little bit dark. We lose a bit of the contrast and highlights with the color correction on those curves, and that's just dandy. Now, that's good. Now, that looks pretty good to me. Cool. Now, let's go to, let's have a make sure that everything else is looking pretty good. Man, looks alright. We're blooming a little bit here, but that's okay. It's not too bad. Alright. Now, what's really great too is you want to do that radial effect that kind of goes around the picture. So let's go and select another adjustment layer. Now, a tip from my friend Glenn is that an adjustment layer is essentially just a solid, but you have this switch turned on. So what we'll do is we'll turn this off, and we want the radial blur to kind of be sort of in the middle. Whoops, sort of in the middle of where these people are. So just in between Bruno and his mum, well, the actress who plays his mum, and then we'll just feather it out a bit, and that's looking pretty good. Now we'll just invert it because we actually only want to affect the things on the outside. So you can see it's we just want to come out a bit because we actually don't want to blur the characters out. We just want to give the edges a bit of a blur. So we're going to turn this back on again, and if you can imagine, there's like it sort of feathers in, you know, a little bit, so you can actually see. So when you turn that off, you can actually see where the feathering would actually occur. But in this case, we'll just turn the adjustment layer off, and let's put a radial blur onto our thing. Oops, radial blur. That's a good one. At the moment, it's going to be spinning. Now that's not what we want. We're going to put the center here, right in the middle, right here, and we're going to make sure that it's a zoom. And now that looks pretty good to me. Fantastic. Now this is where you do the edges in the film was slightly chromatic distortion. So if you can imagine, if you look through a piece of like a telescope or something, anything that magnifies something will have chromatic abrasions on the end of it because of just the way that the light just can't seem to focus into the glass and can't bring the image all together in focus with the three colors. So you're going to try and sort of fake that effect. So what we're going to do is we're just going to call this one Bruno just flat, and then we're just going to pull it into another composition, and we'll call this one Bruno Chromatic Aberration. Sorry, I correct myself. Aberration. Aberration is actually what it's supposed to be. Aberration. Okay. Well, I don't even know how to spell it, but anyway, that's the point. Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure heaps of people will. Now, here we go. So we've got this first one in here, and we're going to go to shift channels, and we're going to pull in the shift channel and put it onto the footage. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the green, and I'm going to turn off the blue. And we just got the red channel. Now I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to turn off the red, and turn on the green. And then I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and I'm going to turn off the green, and I'm going to turn on the blue. And now you can see that this is the blue channel, this is the green channel, and this is the red channel. Now if we combine these three together using the screen mode, you can actually see that they come back together, and that is what you want. Now let's see, if you bring the scales up and press S for scale, that's just I'll just show you what happens when you push these out of alignment. So you kind of see that's kind of the effect. It's got this sort of 3D glasses kind of effect, and that's a little bit too much. We want this effect to be very, very subtle because it's not supposed to be like something that pulls the audience into, you know, realizing it's a special effect. It's more just like something's interesting here, but I'm not sure what it is. And that's the trademark of a good special effects person. Now let's make this 101, and we'll make this 101.5. So you can just kind of see here, you can see that the aberration is occurring just on the edges of slight things, and you're not really 100% sure what it is, but it's definitely there. So I think that we have done a pretty decent job. Now the last thing you need to add in is grain. Now I've got this grain here. You can't quite see because it's really massive, but it's grain here, and it's big. So what I've actually done is you could basically make a solid, and you know I would suggest picking. No, actually make it. What is it? What's the actual numbers? They're magic numbers for this. Let's see. If I can remember, I forget what it is. I think it's 7D. Oh, I can't remember what it is. Let's try here. This has to be 16, 16, and 16. And no, that didn't work. Dark gray? No, that's not what I want. Let's try one more time. 16, 16, 16. No, that's not right. Ah, 16,000. Right, let me try that one more time. Add 16, 1, 2, 3. Nope. 16, 1, 2, 3. And 16,000. And we're good. And that's the number you want. So for gray solid. And then we'll throw that on top. Let's make some grain. And add grain. Now there's a few different presets you can use for the grain. You can use the Kodak or Eastman color, whatever you think is the right grain for you. You can do a bit of research. I like using the Kodak, and the 320T isn't bad. And let's go for, I'll just make the animation just a little bit slower. As Glenn gave me the magic number, I think it was 0.9. He's awesome. You gotta love Glenn. Go to his website, mindscapefilms.com. My bad, Glenn, if you're hating me right now. Anyway, so what you could do is actually render I would recommend maybe rendering about 5 or 6 seconds of this grain anyway. And so what would you have to do is actually throw it over the top of this. Now, you could render it as this is right now, and it probably wouldn't take too long, but the reality is grain is just grain. You know what? I made about 20 seconds of it and just looped it, and I made it at 2K as well. So just for my own amusement. So there you go. There's the grain there, and I'm going to overlay it. And you can see the grain just magically blends into the thing. Now, it's a little bit harsh at the moment. You see that the grain is actually quite thick. Now, if you want that kind of look, that's awesome. And if you make it even more dramatic by, literally just turning up the grain by sharpening things, or to throw like a curve on it, you can make it really, really gritty. Or you can, well, I'm going to dial it down a bit. So I'm going to take about 30%. 30% is actually a pretty good number for me. So that is that kind of look. Now, at the moment, I think this is looking good, but I think this is still a little bit too bright, too colorful. And I'm going to go back to the flat image and actually bring down the saturation just a bit more. Now, I could go in there and actually bring the saturation down in the actual adjustment layer, but I'm going to do it this way because this actually preserves the luminance colors really well if you use this using the black and then throwing it through a color mode. So let's make this, let's say 30%. That's looking a bit better, and I like the tone of that a lot more. And that essentially is all you need to do. Now, I was actually thinking if you wanted to make it even more funky, you could actually go here and we could actually do this effect where we duplicate this and let's throw it over a fast blur on top of this. And as we do that, let's go vertical and let's just throw a little bit of a vertical blur on that. I'm going to repeat the edges as well. Now I'm just going to do a little slight, no, overlay's probably not the right one. I think screen would be a better one. And I'm just going to take this down just a little bit, just so it gives it more of a dreamy kind of look, but you're not really sure what that dreamy look is. And then we'll take this at 50%. And let's try this again. And that is a little bit better. And the blooming comes out a bit more. Anyway, I hope that this has helped you a little bit. It's a quick tutorial. It's something that I thought was kind of cool. Maybe you can use it for something. I don't know. You want to do random flashbacks or certain things. I'll show you a whole lot more soon. One day in the future. Anyway, this has been me, and hope you got something out of this. See ya.